What's the best video for longer hair types that have fine hair? Well, there are many of you guys out there who do have fairly long hair, but because of the fine texture of it, it could be a challenge. So I've mentioned in the past that there's a difference between fine hair and thin hair. And I actually did a video on that not that long ago, so you can see it on my channel. But fine hair means that you have a lot of hair, but the actual texture itself, like this mannequin, I mean, this is a perfect example, is very, very, very fine and sometimes fragile to the point where it may even just snap, or you may see a lot of flyaways. It's normal just because that's how the hair type and hair texture is. So let's take a look at this mannequin real quick and let's go over a couple of things. So when you think of fine hair, right, you think like, oh, it's not going to be able to do much because the hair is too fine. And the biggest challenge is that it doesn't have a lot of volume because the hair itself is a very, very thin / fine texture, each individual strand. So a lot of times it's going to just weigh down because there's nothing to support the rest of the hair to thicken it up. So one thing I do suggest is, and again, the reason we're doing this is for longer hairstyles for hair types, is if you're going to have your hair longer, you have to make sure that you have layering in your hair. And it's got to be layered the right way. You don't want to have the layers too short, because if they're too short like this, and you want to keep the hair longer, it's just going to look like a mullet. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's the kind of look you want, then that's totally cool. But the number one key thing to having fine hair and having it longer is it has to be layered. And one thing that you want to do, especially when you're going to get your hair cut, is you want to make sure that they're really blending and balancing the layers. And if they don't do that, what's going to happen is it's not going to really be good for your hair because there's actually ways that it can be cut to make it finer and your hair to look actually more thin because they're removing too much weight or they're not properly layering it. I always suggest that you want to do a blunt cut on fine hair, just because to me what it's doing is it's thickening up the actual hair texture, the strand, right? It's not making it, sometimes fine hair has a tendency to be very flyaway and look very stringy. Well, the key to making sure it doesn't do that is that when you cut the layers, you want to make sure that they're pretty solid, like this. I don't suggest point cutting on finer hair because if you do, it's really just towards the ends. And the last thing you want to do is have the fine hair look very jagged. My approach, in my opinion, is that you want the hair to be very, very solid and blunt, which is going to have the appearance of it being much thicker. So when it really comes down to it, and the whole point of this whole video is really to help you understand, what you should be doing or not getting done when it comes to having fine hair and long hair. Now, obviously, the longer hair is going to weigh down because it's longer, right? You've got some length in there. But the key is, again, is to have layering in it. If you don't, and you don't want any sort of movement or any sort of shape, then that's totally cool. That's totally up to you. But I would suggest getting some sort of layers. Now, where do you get the layering, right? Where do you want the layers to fall? Where do you want them to start? It really, really depends on you, and it depends on the bottom length. What you don't want to do is be a guy and have a haircut that makes the hair look very, very feminine. Like, for instance, having bangs across here and having like a bob or whatever. If you want something a bit more on the masculine side, then get a haircut or create a shape that reflects your style. Remember, your haircut should reflect your style. So you want to make sure that you're getting something that's going to be connected all together. You want to make sure it's connected, but the number one thing is to have layers. It's the same thing for a woman's hair. Is you want to make sure that the ends are bluntly cut like that. And again, it really depends on how you're going to be wearing the hair. For women's hair, sometimes I'll have a tendency to, or they want to flip the hair around and style it differently. And you can actually cut it in a way that if they flip their hair over this way, for example, because of the way you did the haircut, it's going to have the layers in here are going to create some more volume and some more shape, right, into this area, you know, or you want to flip it to the other side. That's where layers come in handy, because if you create a haircut it's designed to help give volume, then it's going to be much better overall. You know, sometimes you can wear a fringe, you know, if you want to really strengthen this up, but on finer hair, because you want the section to be a bit thicker and the hair to appear thicker, you have to take a lot more. So I don't suggest doing bangs on someone with super fine hair, because if you do a little bang area, the hair is so thin, it's just going to look like a little baby strip of hair. You know, so you're going to have to thicken them up a bit. And that's what I suggest for fine hair if you want to keep it longer. Let me know if you found this video helpful. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time for more videos with The Salon Guy.